This is Stoli, the Stoic Life channel. Here's the 20 things I quit to simplify my life. There was a time when my life felt heavy. Not because of what I carried in my hands, but because of what I refused to release from my mind. I thought peace would come from doing more, earning more, becoming more. But the more I added, the more I lost myself. Then one day, I realized that peace is not something you chase. It's what remains when you stop chasing. And so, I began to let go. One thought, one habit, one expectation at a time. These are the 20 things I quit to simplify my life. I quit overthinking everything. Overthinking was the endless noise inside my head, replaying old conversations, imagining what-ifs, and fighting battles that never existed. It made me live more in my imagination than in the present. The truth is, clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from acting, from trusting, from letting life unfold. I learned to pause and breathe instead of analyze and fear. Not every question deserves an answer, and not every thought deserves attention. Peace began the moment I stopped believing everything I think. Now, silence has become my favorite place to rest. I quit trying to please everyone. For too long, I shaped myself to fit other people's expectations. I became whoever they needed, just so I could feel accepted. But in the process, I lost my authenticity. I learned that you can give the world everything, and someone will still think it's not enough. So I stopped chasing approval. I began choosing honesty over acceptance, and truth over applause. The freedom that followed was quiet, deep, and real. I finally understood that the only person I truly need to please is the one I see in the mirror. I quit comparing myself to others. Comparison used to steal every ounce of my peace. Social media made it worse, filling my mind with lives that looked brighter, cleaner, and faster than mine. But every time I compared, I forgot gratitude. When I stopped looking at others, I started seeing myself again. I began measuring progress, not perfection. I stopped asking, am I doing as well as them, and started asking, am I doing better than I was yesterday? That's when joy returned. A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it, it just blooms. I quit saying yes to everything. There is strength in saying no. I used to say yes out of fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out. But every yes I gave others was a quiet no to myself. I learned that not every opportunity is meant for me. Now I choose carefully. If something doesn't bring peace, growth, or purpose, I let it go. Life became lighter when I realized that no is not rejection. It's direction. I quit multitasking constantly. For years, I wore busyness like a badge of honor. I thought that doing more meant being more. But all it did was scatter my energy and blur my focus. I learned that presence is power. Doing one thing with full attention is better than doing 10 things with distraction. Now, when I work, I work. When I rest, I rest. When I walk, I notice. When I listen, I really hear. In stillness, I found depth. And in simplicity, I found strength. I quit chasing perfection. Perfection was the lie that kept me running. Every time I reached one goal, I found another flaw to fix. But perfection is a moving target that never lets you rest. I learned to embrace progress instead. I began to accept that growth is messy, and mistakes are proof of effort. Authenticity became my new perfection. I stopped asking, is this perfect, and started asking, is this real? Peace doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from being whole. I quit holding grudges. For years, I carried old anger as if it would protect me. But it only poisoned my spirit. I realized forgiveness isn't about the person who hurt you. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the pain forever. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over bitterness. When I forgave, I didn't do it for them. I did it for my own freedom. The lightness that followed felt like breathing again after years underwater. I quit clutter, both physical and mental. My room used to be filled with things I didn't need, and my mind was the same. Every object was tied to a memory or guilt. Every thought was unfinished business. One day, I started letting go. One item, one thought, one fear at a time. The more I released, the clearer I became. Minimalism isn't about owning less. It's about making space for what truly matters. Simplicity is the highest form of peace. I quit living for social media validation. I used to measure happiness in likes, followers, and comments. Each post was a small performance for approval. But none of it was real. I forgot that moments lose their beauty when you pause to prove them. Now I share less and experience more. I take pictures for memory, not for attention. I learned that life feels better when it's lived, not displayed. The best memories don't need an audience. They just need your presence. I quit negative self-talk. For years, my inner voice was cruel. I spoke to myself in ways I'd never speak to someone I loved. I believed that harshness was strength, but it was only pain. I began replacing criticism with compassion. Instead of saying I'm failing, I started saying I'm learning. Instead of saying I can't, I said I'm trying. Slowly, I became my own ally. When I changed the words inside me, I changed the world around me. Kindness begins within. I quit toxic relationships. There are people who drain you quietly. They disguise control as concern, and manipulation as love. I held onto them out of guilt, but peace came when I let go. You can love someone from afar and still protect your energy. Walking away doesn't mean hate. It means you finally chose yourself. Peace is not found in who you keep. It's found in who you release. I quit overcommitting. I used to fill every moment with tasks and promises. I thought being busy meant being valuable. But I was only running from stillness. Now I leave room to breathe, to think, to feel. Rest is not laziness. It's a quiet investment in clarity. Doing less has made me more intentional. Every yes now means something. Every moment has weight. I quit trying to control everything. Control is an illusion we cling to out of fear. Life happens in waves, some gentle, some rough, and control doesn't stop the tide. I learned to trust the flow. To act with intention, but release the outcome. Peace came when I accepted that not everything needs my hand. Sometimes surrender is stronger than resistance. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. I quit procrastinating. Waiting for the perfect time only delayed my growth. Fear disguised itself as preparation. I kept saying someday, until I realized someday never comes. Action builds momentum, not waiting. Small steps create big change. I learned that discipline is a form of self-love. If I want peace, I must earn it with consistency. Now, instead of waiting for motivation, I begin. And in beginning, motivation arrives. I quit gossiping and judging others. It's easy to point fingers when you're afraid to face your own flaws. But judgment poisons the soul that holds it. When I stopped criticizing others, I started healing myself. Everyone fights silent battles. Compassion is always the wiser choice. I no longer waste energy on tearing down what others build. My peace grows in silence, not in noise. I quit the fear of missing out. I used to chase every invitation, every trend, every experience, afraid that I'd be left behind. But FOMO is a thief of presence. I learned that what is meant for me will never pass me by. Now I find joy in staying still, in simplicity, in quiet evenings. Peace doesn't live in constant movement. It lives in alignment with what truly matters. Missing out is not loss. It's choosing depth over distraction. I quit holding on to the past. The past is a teacher, not a home. For years, I replayed old mistakes, wishing I could rewrite them. But healing begins when you stop rewriting and start rewriting yourself. I learned to thank my past for its lessons and then walk forward. You can't move ahead while staring behind. Letting go doesn't erase what happened. It gives you space to become who you are now meant to be. I quit neglecting my health. For a long time, I treated my body like a machine that never needed rest. I skipped meals, lost sleep, ignored signs. But the body remembers everything. Now I treat it as my oldest friend. I eat to nourish, rest to recover, move to stay alive. Health is not about perfection. It's about balance. When I began honoring my body, my mind began to heal too. I quit overconsumption. Not just of food or things, but of everything: noise, opinions, and distractions. I realized that life feels fuller when it's not overloaded. Now I seek quality over quantity. Stillness over constant stimulation. The more I simplified, the more I saw beauty in small things: a quiet morning, a deep breath, a kind word. Less truly became more. I quit doubting my worth. For years, I thought I had to prove I was enough. But I was born enough. Nothing to earn, nothing to chase. I just had to remember. Now I stand with quiet confidence. I no longer shrink to fit in or shout to be seen. I simply am. And that is enough. The art of life is not about adding more, but about removing what doesn't belong. I didn't find peace by doing more. I found it by doing less. By saying no. By slowing down. By remembering what truly matters. In letting go, I didn't lose anything that was real. I only lost the illusions that kept me from peace. And in that space of simplicity, I finally found myself again.